Getting ready for 6th grade, Lesson 4, Essential Question. How can you express real-world quantities as percents and use them to solve problems? Unlock the problem. Percent means per 100, and cent in the percent, that means 100, or out of 100. So when you find percent, you are finding a part of 100. 60%, for example, means 60 out of 100. You can write percents using the percent symbol right there. So 60% is written as 60 with the percent sign. In this box, what number is always compared in a percent? So it's always out of what? It's always going to be out of 100. Example 1 says name the percent that is shaded. And so this is 100 flat. And so how many columns are shaded? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 columns. And each column is worth 10 because it's a 10 by 10. So right there, there's 50. And then we had 3 extra little boxes. So there's 53 out of the 100 that is shaded, or 53% with the word, or 53 with the percent. And it has to be bubbles. You can't do dots. It has to be the bubbles. Looking at example 2, it says name the percent that is not shaded. So let's see how many columns. Well, this one's not a full one, so there's 1 full, 2, 3, 4 full columns, not shaded. So there's 40 squares because there's 10 in each column. And then how many were not shaded in this row? There were 7 individual squares, so 7 times 1 is 7. You add those together and you get 47. 47 out of 100, or 47%, is not shaded. And again, you'd write it 47 with the bubbles. Now, the paper doesn't say this, but if you added the percent shaded to the percent not shaded, it should end up coming in up to a sum of 100. So let's just check that real quick. So 53% plus 47%, 3 and 7 is 10, 5 and 4 is 9, and plus the 1, it's 100. So that means that we accounted for every square. So let's just make sure that we mark that that's what we were checking is 100%. So now let's look at the try this. The try this says use the number line, tell what these percents mean. There's 0%, 50%, and 100%. And actually what they've kind of listed is some benchmark percents. So there's the 0, 50%, 100%. Let's go through their three. 0% means what out of 100? Or none. Well, look, that's 0%. That's 0 out of 100. So we have 0 out of 100. And 50% means what out of 100? It means 50 out of 100, or half of the total. And C, 100% means, oh, there's 100%. Oh, 100 out of 100 means 100 out of 100. And that one means all. And this one means half. Remember, we also use half in fractions. That's going to come in handy in a day or so. So these are the benchmark percents. We have 0, 25, 50, 75, and 100%. And those also look familiar to me with the benchmark decimals that we use. Now, decimals, percents, and fractions, they're all going to come together in the next day or so. So those are good benchmark numbers to keep in your head. 0, 25, 50, 75, and 100. For your share and show, you have problems 1, 2, and 3 to answer using this 100 flat. And then on 4 and 5, they each have their own flat that they want you to shade in the percent. So make sure that you read and know exactly what they're asking for. Press pause while you work it. I'll go through them in just a moment. And then I will also go through the on your own problems as well. So press pause and work on the share and show. Number 1, how many whole columns and single squares are shaded? So you need to have counted the number of columns. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full columns. So I'm going to go 7 columns. And then how many squares? 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. And I know that's not the best handwriting, but that's going to equal 74 squares total. So what is the percent that is shaded? Well, there's 74 out of the 100 that are shaded, so it's 74%. Now if it's 74% shaded, what percent is unshaded? You could solve this 2 ways, because we know that the total is going to be 100. We could just take away the 74%, and that would be 0, that would be 10, and then 9, and then 10. So 6 and then 9 minus 7 is 2. So there should be 26 unshaded squares, but just to make sure, let's count. So we have 2 rows, which is 20, because it's 2 rows of 10. And then how many individual squares? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There is 26 unshaded. And again, a good way to check that is to put them together and make sure that they add up to 100% to make sure that you've accounted for every square in the box. For number 4, I'm going to zoom in so that I can be a little more precise. And I apologize that it gets kind of blurry, but it says shade the grid to show the percent. So they want to show 20%. And that means that how many squares do I need to fill in? That's the same as 20 out of 100. So I need to shade in 20. And I know each column is 10. So I have 10 and then 20. So I should have 2 columns shaded. And that's what that one should look like. Number 5 is the same deal. They want to show 86% as shaded. So that is 86 out of 100. I need 86 squares shaded. That would be 1 column, 2 columns. So we're at 20, and then 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, there's 80, and then 6 individuals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so your shaded in square should look similar to that. And you could have started at the other side, but either way you should have ended up with 86 individual squares shaded. Now make sure that you press pause and you work on the on your own and the problem solving sections. I will be going over those answers in just a moment. For the on your own, they wanted it for 6, 7, and 8, you're going to use this diagram. So percent of light shading. So there's 3 different percents now. The first light shading, there's 3 columns, so that is going to be a 30%. The dark shading has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, so that's going to be 50, and then 2 squares. So that's going to be 52%. And then what is left not shaded? 1 full column of 10, and then 8 individual squares. So that is going to be 18%. Now, to just double check that I counted correctly and accounted for each square, I am going to add my 3% right over here to make sure they add up to 100. And you can see that they did add up to 100, so I accounted for every square. Now, number 9 and 10 and 11 are using this one. Now, it's not in columns, but you still do the exact same thing, just how many squares are shaded. So, now, they ask you for the not shaded first, but I'm going to skip that one right now, and I'm going to go to the dark shading first, because I think that one is going to be one of the easier ones to count. So, dark shading. I have a group of 4. 4, 4, 4, 4. So 5 groups of 4 equal 20. That means that it is 20% in the dark shading. Now the light shading, this is a group of 10, and this is a group of 10. So I'm at 20, and then these 2 columns are on the sides. They're not a group of 10 because I've already counted the corners. So they are each a group of 8. So I have a group of 8 here and a group of 8 here. So 2 8s are 16 plus 2 groups of 10, which is 20. 16 plus 20 is 36%. Now for the unshaded, I'm going to count first and then double check with just my numbers, but I can tell that right here is a group of 4, here is a group of 4, here is a group of 4, and here's a group of 4. So right there I have 16, and I'm going to make a little note, 16, 4 times 4 is 16, and then again this is one group of 8, and that's a group of 8. So there's another group of 16, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then this side 6. So that's 12. 6 and 6 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Carry the 1. That's going to be 44%. Now I can check this by adding my 3% up, and I should equal 100. And you can see right over here that if I added them together, I added it up to 100. So I have 44% not shaded, 20% dark shading, and 36% light shading. The next 3 are asking you to write the closest benchmark percent, and remember your benchmarks. Those are 0, 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. So this is kind of like rounding. Which of these is closest to which of these? 48% would round to 50%. 94% would round to 100%. And 4% would round to 0%. For number 15, in the election between Warren and Jorge, Warren declared victory because he received 58% of the vote. They have to have more than half of the percentage to vote. So remember that 50% is the same as 1/2. So that means that Warren was correct. So yes, because 58% is more than half.